Samson went down to Timnah, where he saw a young Philistine woman. And he went to his parents and said, "I have seen a Philistine woman in Timnah. Now get her for me as my wife." So his parents said, "Is there not an acceptable woman amongst all our relatives or amongst all our people? Must you go to the uncircumcised Philistines to get a wife?" Samson said to his father, "Get her for me. She's the right one for me." See, his parents didn't realize that this was from the Lord, who was seeking an opportunity to confront the Philistines, for at that time they were ruling over Israel. Again, Samson went to Timnah to speak to the woman, and as he approached the vineyards of Timnah, suddenly a young lion came roaring towards him. The Spirit of the Lord came on him with power, so that he tore the young lion apart with his bare hands, as one might have torn a young goat. But he did not tell his parents what had happened. Then he went and spoke with the woman, and he liked her. Then again he went down to Timnah, and this time to marry her, and as he passed by the lion's carcass, he saw there was a swarm of bees and some honey. He went and scooped out some of the honey and ate it as he went along. When he rejoined with his parents, he gave some to them, and they ate it too. But he did not tell them that he got it from the lion's carcass. Another time, his father went down to Timnah to see the woman, and Samson had prepared a banquet, which was customary for the bridegroom. Now, when he appeared, he was given 30 companions, and he said to them, "Let me tell you a riddle. If you can give me the answer within the 7 days of the wedding feast, I will give you 30 sets of linen and 30 sets of clothes. But if you cannot tell me the answer, then you must give me 30 sets of linen and 30 sets of clothes." "Tell us the riddle," they said. "Let's hear it." So Samson said, "Out of the eater, something to eat. Out of the strong, something sweet." For 3 days, they couldn't tell him the answer. So on the 4th day, they took his wife and said, "Coax your husband to tell us the answer, or we will burn you and your father's house to death. Did you invite us here to rob us?" So his wife threw herself onto Samson, sobbing. "You hate me. You don't really love me. You've told my people a riddle, but you haven't told me the answer." "I haven't even explained it to my father or my mother," he said. "Why should I explain it to you?" She cried for the 7 days of the wedding feast. And on the 7th day, he finally told her. She in turn went and explained it to her people. "Yes, that's right. I'll call you back." Okay. Then, sorry, that rather threw me. She in turn went and explained it to Israel. On the sunset of the 7th day, the men of Timnah went to Samson and said, "What is stronger than a lion? What is sweeter than honey?" Samson replied, "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have solved my riddle." Then the Spirit of the Lord came on him with power, and he went down to Ashkelon Ascalon struck down 30 men, stripped them of their belongings, and gave their clothes to those who had solved the riddle. Burning with anger, he went off to his father's house. Meanwhile, his wife was given to his friend who had attended him at his own wedding. Now, sometime later, at the time of the wheat harvest, Samson prepared a young goat and went off to visit his wife. "I'm going into my wife's room," he said. But her father would not let him. I was so thoroughly sure you hated her that I gave her to your friend. Here, isn't her younger sister more attractive? Take her instead. Samson said, "Now I have a right to get even with the Philistines. I will really harm them." And he went and he caught 300 foxes and he tied them tail to tail in pairs. And he took torches and attached them to each pair of tails, lit the torches, and then set the pairs of foxes loose in the standing grain of the Philistines. He burned up the shocks and the standing grain, together with the vineyards and the olive groves. And when the men of Timnah saw this, they said, "Who did this?" And they were told, "Samson, the son of the Timnite son-in-law, because his wife was given to his friend." So they went and burned Samson's wife and her father to death. And Samson said, "Because you have acted like this, I will not stop until I get my revenge on you." And he went and attacked them viciously and slaughtered many of them. Then he went down and stayed in the cave in the rock of Etam. Now the Philistines came up and camped in Judah, spreading out as far as Lehi. The men of Judah came out and said, "Why have you come to fight us?" And they said, "We've come to take Samson prisoner, to do to him as he did to us." So 3,000 men from Judah went down to the cave in the rock of Etam and said to Samson, "Don't you know that the Philistines are rulers over us? What have you done to us?" Samson said, "I merely did to them what they did to me." They said to Samson, "We have come to tie you up and hand you over to them." And Samson said, "Promise me you will not kill me yourselves." And so they said to him, "Oh, agreed. We will not kill you. We will just tie you up and hand you over to them." So they tied him up with 2 new ropes and led him up the rock of Etam. Now, as he approached Lehi, the Philistines came towards him, shouting. The Spirit of the Lord came on him with power, and the ropes became like charred flax. They fell from his arms. Finding the fresh jawbone of a donkey, he grabbed it and struck down 1,000 men. Ugh. Then he said, "With a donkey's jawbone, I have made donkeys out of them. With a donkey's jawbone, I have killed 1,000 men." After he'd finished speaking, he threw the jawbone away. And that place was called Ramath Lehi, or Jawbone Hill. Because he was thirsty, he cried out to the Lord, "You have given your servant this great victory. Must I now die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised?" So the Lord opened up the hollow place in Lehi, and water came out of it. And Samson drank. His strength returned and he revived. So that place was called En Hakor, or Paula's spring, and it's still there in Lehi. Samson ruled the Philistines Samson ruled the Israelites in the time of the Philistines for 20 years. One day, Samson went down to Gaza, where he saw a prostitute. He went in to spend the night with her. And the men of Gaza, when they found out that Samson's here, they lay in wait all night. And by the city gates, and they did not make a move during the night, saying, "At dawn, we'll kill him." But Samson lay there only until the middle of the night. And when he woke up, he got up, took hold of the city gates together with the two posts, and tore them loose, bar and all. He lifted them to his shoulders and carried them to the top of the hill that faced Hebron. Sometime later, Samson fell in love with a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. Now, the rulers of the Philistines went to see her and said, "Try and coax your husband to show us the secret of his great strength, so that we can overpower him, tie him up, and subdue him. We, in turn, will each give you 1,100 shekels of silver." So Delilah went and said to her husband, "Samson, what's the secret of your great strength, and how you can be tied up and subdued?" Samson said, "If anyone ties me with 7 fresh thongs that have not been dried, I'll become as weak as any other man." So the rulers of the Philistines got her 7 fresh thongs that had not been dried, and she tied him with them. Then, with a man hidden in the room, she called to him, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." But Samson snapped the thongs as easily as a thread snaps when it comes close to a flame. So the secret of his great strength was not discovered. And Delilah said, "You've been making a fool of me. You lied to me. Come now, tell me the secret of your great strength." So Samson said, if anyone ties me with 2 new ropes that have never been used, I'll become as weak as any other man." So she got 2 new ropes and tied him with them. Then again, with men hidden in the room, she called to him, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." But he snapped the ropes off his arms as if they were threads. And Delilah said, "Till now you have been making a fool of me and lying to me. Tell me the secret of your great strength." He said to her, if anyone ties me, if anyone takes the 7 braids of my hair and weaves them into the fabric of the loom and ties them with the pin, I'll become as weak as any other man." So, while he was sleeping, she took 7 braids of his hair and wove them into the fabric of the loom and tied them with the pin. Then she said to him, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." And he woke up and pulled up the pin and the loom with the fabric. Delilah said, "How can you say you love me when you won't even confide in me? This is the 3rd time that you've lied to me and not told me the secret of your great strength." With such nagging. She prodded him day after day until he was tired to death. And so finally he explained it to her. Look, no razor has ever touched my head, for I am a Nazarite, set apart from God since birth. If anyone should cut my hair, my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as any other man. So, when Delilah saw that he had indeed told her everything, he went and sent word to her people. Come back at once, he has told me everything. And they came back with the silver in their hands. Having put him to sleep on her lap, she called a man to shave off his hair. And so she began to subdue him. And his strength left him. Then, again she cried to him, Samson, wake up, the Philistines are upon you. And he woke up thinking, I'll go out as before and shake myself free. But he did not realize that the Lord had left him. And the Philistines seized him and then gouged out his eyes and let him down to Gaza. They sent him to grinding in the prison and shackled him with bronze shackles. But the hair on his head began to grow again after it had been shaved. Now the rulers of the Philistines, they all assembled to make a sacrifice to Dagon, their god, and to celebrate, saying, our God has given Samson, our enemy, into our hands. And they celebrated, and when the people came out and saw him, they said, our God has given our enemy into our hands, the one who laid waste our land and multiplied our slain. And while they're in high spirits, they said, bring him out, let him entertain us. So they went down into the prison in Gaza and brought him out. And he performed for them. Why, Delilah? When they led him to the place where the temple stood, they stood him amongst the pillars of the temple, and he said to the servant who was holding his hands, stand me amongst the central pillars so I may lean upon them. And now the temple was crowded with men and women. All the rulers of the Philistines were there. And on the roof of the temple were about 3,000 men and women looking at him perform. And he prayed to God, oh, sovereign Lord, remember me. Oh, God, please give me my strength one last time. And with one final blow, let me get revenge on the Philistines for my 2 eyes. And he reached out to the 2 central pillars that supported the whole temple, and bracing himself upon them, he said, let me die with the Philistines. And then he pushed with all his might, and down came the temple and all the people in it and all the rulers of the Philistines. Thus He killed many more people when he died than while he lived. His brothers and his father's whole household, they went up to get him. They brought him back to his hometown between Zorah and Eshtaol, and buried him in the tomb of his father Manoah. He had led Israel for